Mr. President, Mopocho, Madakukuno, Min Babufai. I can't speak it in your Gonja language, but you are the only one who can solve this problem for us. Unfortunately, you don't have 3.5 years. You have 1.5 years max to go. Because when people start clamoring for your position, everything else will be thrown to the dogs. And I believe that some of the things you have done shows that you have the will to be able to do it. We need to support you to do it. So let's come to the solutions. The first thing is to deal with the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the politically exposed person who are involved in this. I will ask why it's on Zoom. He tells you a very famous quotation that the firefighters are the arsonists. The people we have chosen to solve our problems for us, around the president, around the minister for lands and natural resources, are the people themselves who are involved in it. So the president should deal. And I think that one of the things, again, I draw a paradox. When I asked the former president in Koforidua about what he was doing about Akunta Mine, he looked me in the face and everybody else and said that Akunta Mine was not involved in Galamsey as we speak. But under this presidency, at least we see one new thing, that the MDC organizer, the national organizer, the NDC third national vice president, have been pointed out by the AG to investigate them. Yeah. Unfortunately, Iyoko, we've not heard anything from you. So, Mr. President, you should be asking that Iyoko, just as they did to Akunta Mine, they should arrest these two gentlemen and do the investigations. Mr. President, Akunta Mine, since we had that arrest that was done and we got some parliamentarians go to sit down and on the floor and all of that, we're not seeing what has happened to Akunta Mine. Akunta Mine, he and his other directors should be dragged to court. Professor Frimpong Boateng's document has a plethora of politically exposed persons who are involved in Galamsey who we have not seen anything about. So you need to deal with that. The NDC MP for our win, his chiefs have accused him of being involved in Galamsey. He says it's not true. We have petitioned His Excellency the President. We've not heard, beyond you acknowledging receipt, we've not heard anything that you've done. You actually have seen, and we also petitioned the Speaker of Parliament. But unfortunately, what we have seen is that he has been appointed as the deputy leader of a very influential parliamentary committee, the Committee on Defense. And so he will be privy to a lot of security briefs. And this is somebody who is a person of interest. And so that person needs to be dealt with, at least investigated. We also have the NDC constituency chairperson for Axim, who has been accused also of being involved in Galamsey. You know, we've not seen anything. The NDC constituency chairperson for Dunko as well has been involved in that. And so we are people within. If you take the Akunta Mining, you take the issues around Professor Frimpong Boateng, a lot of MPP people involved in it, they have to be dealt with. You then look into, some of these people I've mentioned in this current party too, who are also have to be dealt with. So the first thing to do is that it should not matter who us as God. They should be dealt with. The politically exposed persons, they all should be dealt with. The second bit are the very influential people, very rich people. And you know what His Excellency the President said last year in October as candidate Mahama? He says that to deal with Galamsey, we need to go after the kingpins. So companies like Heritage Imperial, who were giving prospecting licenses and had, a number of excavators in the forest reserves, and they had people in power who were their lawyers and all of that, and because of that they were not touched. We need to go after them. So that has to happen. Now, after you've dealt with the politically exposed people, now we need to start looking at the people who represent the president in the districts and in the regions. Yeah. The president has given all MMDC, DCs and MCs a KPI of Galamsey. So after this death of the 8 gallant ones, what we should not be saying is that anywhere that there's Galamsey happening, what should happen is that DC immediately should be sacked. Let me give you a typical example. So the DC in the Mansour area, for example, where that attack happened, then this DC comes and is interviewed by one of the media houses. Then he tells us that the place the police people had gone to, and again the police people too, now there's NIMOS. If they are going for the operations, they should stop the solo operations. They should go as NIMOS, so that they can go together. But then you come and the police people have gone and they are being attacked. You don't complain about the fact that these are police people who, some of them, they had stones, injured and all of that. You don't complain. Then you come and say that the police, where the policemen had gone, where they are at, is not a Galamsey site. However, the people were taking sand to go and fill. We have about 2 excavators there digging deep holes. How are you going to fill that back when that is done? Then he tells us another one that exposes his competence. That because there was no washing there, who told him that in every mining, processing of the ore is done at the mining site? Who told him that? And he thinks we are so gullible we believe that. And then he forgets that as MC, as chairperson of the security committee and the mining committee, when it comes to sand winning in Ghana, you need a permit. Let's ask him whether those people who he claims erroneously were dealing with sand winning. So that's why immediately this particular DC should be dismissed. I'm surprised the Minister of Local Government is still having him as put, and he should be interdicted. We should look at his core records between himself and all of the people, that green tipper truck that we saw there, those 2 excavators that were also. Let's look at the relationships with them.
You think he's compromised?
Oh, so it should be investigated. At least I know for sure that he's demonstrated that he's not competent enough to be a representative of the president. But I think that he's currently a suspicious character who should be investigated. Because how is he telling us, everybody, that this case, I have asked that investigations to be done, but then he now says he's cleared the people and that they were not involved in mining. So immediately, so DCs that have these issues happening in their communities, immediately they should be dismissed. They should also be investigated. And you see, when 9/11 happened in the States, immediately the money laundering, regime was strengthened, and the link between money laundering and terrorism was strengthened. So now our anti-money laundering laws should not be looking at terrorism. And the terrorism they should be looking at exactly is what the IGP causes activities of illegal mining. So let's find out the monies that are flowing. Who are the people who are importing these excavators? Who are the people who go to bail these environmental criminals when they are arrested? And let's start looking at the monies that are flowing in. So that ought to be done. And it should not only be the DCs and MCs. The police commanders, I might leave the regional police commanders out, but the divisional commanders in those areas, the district commanders in those, the station commanders close. How is it that the police commander there, did not see what has happened and he had to take a team from Accra to come? So one of the things I would postulate should happen is that police commanders, DCs, MCs, and also I'm hoping that this particular operation, it was led by intelligence from the NIB. Otherwise, the NIB people should also be called in. I completely agree with my brother when he talks about weaponizing the Forestry Commission. We talk about all the deaths that have happened. Let him tell you how many Forestry Commission people have died. In this thing that we claim that we've reclaimed some of the forest, one of the places that they reclaimed, a Forestry Commission people went there again, and he was hacked. The gentleman had to spend, I don't even know whether he's currently been discharged, spend time in Komfuanochi. So we need to militarize the Forestry Commission so that they are permanently stated there. Because you see, one of the biggest challenges now that we're facing with the illegality is that now they are importing mercenaries from the sub-region. And they are coming in and they are providing them security. So before you get to the where they are doing their illegality, these people have barriers that they have put in there. So they won't allow you to go there. And you find out that when you go, all of them, they're speaking foreign languages. So the people in the community they beat up 2 journalists, one of your colleagues, in the presence of the police, because the police were outnumbered and outgunned. They also beat up Inshira in the presence of the police. They had outnumbered them, they had outgunned the police. In the previous government, there was a time when the Eastern Regional Minister, they had gone for an operation. When they got there with 34 officers, they had to retreat because the number of people they saw and the level of weaponry. So currently, Mr. President, to protect your presidency itself, you need to pay attention to this, because we've seen it in Mali. It was, the conflict around these resources that led to the coup. You see the issues in Boko Haram. You see the Liberia, the Sierra Leone one. So that too much of the evidence that will show that we need to deal with this as a national security crisis. And it ought to be dealt with. Another thing that we've been talking about is the state of emergency. I think it's important that is state of emergency. And again, we're not saying state of emergency in the whole of the country, not even the whole of the district. This particular community where this thing is happening, declare a state of emergency. The last time I went to, last Friday, I was in Takwa and drove from Takwa to Obuasi. If you do the Wasai Kropon Road, all the way through Anyamfuri, through Dunkwa, you know, on Dunkwa, on the bridge, I could see people, Chanfans, still sitting on the Ofin River in Dunkwa. So that river, for example, now there's no life on it. So if you declare a state of emergency over that river and tell nobody should go into that water, so that you give special powers to the police, the Forestry Commission, to be able to deal with these people. Again, another example of in the UK, you remember that when they had these issues with the riot, they set up special courts. In 24 hours, when you are arrested, you are taken to court, prosecuted, and jailed. We should come to that particular time again where we deal with that. How on earth is that after we had the 8 people die? You know, currently the coalition we serve on the Nemos, so we get some of the information. There was an arrest that was made of 9 Chinese people. You know where they took them to? They didn't take them to the police. They took them to immigration. So, my plea to you, Honorable Muntaka, your colleague had died. The only thing you can do for him is to reverse that obnoxious policy you have. That says that instead of Act 995, that says that if anybody is arrested, Ghanaian, foreigner, the foreigners, you prosecute them, you jail them after that before you deport them.
Okay.
You cannot say we should continue the way